Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 1, part 2 of the Two Norries podcast. I'm joined again here by my good friend Timmy Long. How are you, Tim?
I'm good, thanks, James.
Big reaction?
Yeah, it was an overwhelming reaction. You know, everybody was very, very kind with their words, and
Yeah.
I just want to say I appreciate everybody's kind comments, and really helped me because as a lot of people seen during the first podcast, I was a little bit nervous because I opened myself up a lot, you know,
Yeah.
and I spoke about how things were in
Yeah.
my life as a child and
Yeah.
teenage years, and the main point of all that really
Yeah.
was just to explain to show people, you know, there's a story behind madness, you know.
Exactly. And you can come from adversity and you can still do great things with your life.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what we're going to focus on for part 2. So we've got the context. Towards the end of part 1, you're talking about just coming to the end of prison. So we pick it up from there.
Mhm.
You're getting out of prison. What was it like reintegrating back into society?
Right. When I came out of prison, I had a college course booked. I got out on a Friday in September on a Friday, and not sure the exact date. And I had an appointment for college that Monday, you know. So that was my real introduction into education outside of prison. I started with St. John's College.
Yeah.
You know, I took on a furniture and restoration course in there, a FETAC level 5. Looking back now, I possibly did take on too much at the time,
Yeah.
because I really should have integrated into family life firstly,
Yeah.
you know, because before I went to prison, it was different. It was
Yeah.
different, you know. I didn't know what responsibilities were. I didn't know what it was like to be a partner or a
Yeah.
father, you know. And
So when you got out of prison, you have 2 children and you have a partner and you have a home and you have bills and all this.
yeah,
Was the sense of responsibility, was it overwhelming? Was it tough to, like, you're starting to man up now, look
yeah,
after your family?
yeah,
How was that? Was it tough or?
yeah, James. It was tough. It was probably one of the hardest and strangest things that I've ever experienced in during my recovery. The beginning, I didn't really know how to behave. I didn't know what my responsibilities were within the home, because my now wife was done everything on her own while I was away, and even before that, I basically was probably another child in the household back then as well, because the way I carried on, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and my attitude, and
yeah.
so it was very, very difficult when I got home.
Mm.
You know,
How did the children receive you?
my little fella was a small bit strange at the beginning. My daughter was fine, you know, but it was a difficult process. I was really, really lost,
Yeah,
if that's the right word, because I wasn't just trying to be a family man. I was trying to stay away from my old life as well. A
yeah,
lot of my old friends, you know, that I would have drank and drugged with and done all other stuff with, you know, would have only known me for being the person I was before I went to prison.
yeah,
And when I came back out, um, they possibly would have thought I was the same man, you know.
mm,
And I knew I had to keep my distance
mm,
for myself, so I wouldn't be tempted by that lifestyle again,
yeah,
and or even go back to addiction, or you know,
yeah,
use or drink, or even go back into that life of crime, you
yeah,
know, because financially at the time, my wife was just doing what she had to when I was away in prison. You know, it was hard for her,
mm,
but when I came home, we we coped.
yeah,
You know, we coped, and I just went straight to college. I didn't go straight into work. You know, it was which was which was probably best at the time as well,
Yeah.
in one sense.
So before you go to college and you're only out, you're after coming out of prison now 3-4 years later, a different man.
Yeah.
That's fair to say.
Yeah.
You've a new identity.
Yeah.
What's it like presenting in your old community with a new identity and people expect to see the old Timmy? What do you feel, or what are the challenges that bring?
I felt like I still had to keep up my own image, the old persona, and there was a bit of me as well wanted to keep it up, like the old protection mode that I had, that kind of kept people away, as I spoke about in the last podcast.
Yeah.
There was the fear of dropping that and being very vulnerable again.
Yeah.
That was really, really difficult, and I still struggle with that at times.
Yeah.
I really do. I struggle with that at times still, but it gets easier. It has gotten easier,
What kind of supports did you avail of when you come out of prison?
Well, whilst I was in prison, I was after connecting with Cork Alliance, and they're a charity based in Cork City, and they help prisoners, male and female, when they come from prison. They try to get them education, accommodation, whatever, they get them courses, self-help courses, personal growth courses, anything that they feel will be relevant for somebody to integrate back into society easily, so because it is very, very difficult, even when I did come out, I had to do my community service, which was the scheme I got out in a scheme. And what was the name of that scheme?
Community return scheme.
Yeah,
it's community return scheme. For people that don't know, it's a temporary release scheme for people doing more than 2 years or more than 12 months, where when you're coming to the end of your sentence, you're released on condition that you do community service. And I remember when you got out, because I was doing community service, we were both doing it over in the orthopedic. We were both in early recovery and off our games, and not quite sure what we were going to do. Edgy enough time, but I found great comfort in knowing that you were on the same journey as me.
Me too. Too. That they're probably we actually helped each other, and look where we are now.
I know.
Who would have thought this?
I know. Back then, it's mad.
That's all. What's that? That's a good few years.
7 years. 6.
It's about nearly 6.
Yeah.
I made a mistake in my timelines in the last podcast. I went into prison in 2012 and I came out late 2014.
Yeah. So when you linked in with the Cork Alliance in prison, and when you got out, did they support you to get the college courses and stuff like that?
When I got out, I needed help to fill out applications and stuff, because I would have never filled out an application form previous to that, not for a medical card or.
Like, if we can remind the people who's watching, in the last podcast you mentioned that you learned how to read and write at the age of 35 in prison.
Yeah.
Like, that's mad to think.
Yeah.
Stuff that we take for granted.
Yeah. You see, the education, I knew education would be very, very important for me.
Yeah.
Because I was leaving my old life behind, where I used physical force for gaining wealth, for gaining money and everything else. No, I knew that wasn't an option anymore, and I wanted to get into education, and because I was actually sick of being in conversations with people and not understanding the words that they were speaking, because it made me really feel stupid. It's probably a strong word, but that's the way I felt, and I would have believed that I wasn't good enough from my experiences with school and from being my experiences in the family home, so education was a massive, massive challenge for me, even to stay with, but something just kept me moving forward. Something just said, keep going. I had my struggles, I hit my walls. Anytime I came across a problem, I would just go completely blank, and
so you've identified education has been a huge part of building your confidence to go out into the real world. You felt like your lack of education today left you at a disadvantage when trying to connect with people not from your same background as you, let's say. So education is like empowering you, and you're going to St. John's College. What's it like going into college after being out of school for so long? Like you left school in first or second year.
It was difficult, you know, because a lot of people would have there was a lot of people in the college that would have known me from my previous life, and I really didn't know what way I was to carry on or react, you know. But I think the first course I done was a furniture and restoration course, and I am a carpenter by trade, you know. I tried to be anyway. But I really enjoyed it, you know. We were being taught all forms of restoration, and it was practical as well. So it was hands on, and I like the hands on stuff.
Yeah.
You know, when we get to sitting down and sitting at a desk and reading or something else, I get a little bit impatient and I want to get up and do something. You know, I'll speak about that later on. My difficulties with that in college, in third level education, but even earlier on in St. John's, it would have been difficult for me to do some reports and stuff for that course, you know.
Yeah, and after you done the restoration course, that was level 5. What did you want to do after that?
During that course, I was also doing my phases for my carpentry and joinery certificate.
So you were finishing off that apprenticeship you started.
I just, as going back to what I said a while ago, I just jumped into everything.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I wasted so much time in my life in addiction that I needed to do everything at once, which is something that's known about addicts, you know.
Yeah, I think in especially in early recovery, people put down the drink and the drugs, and they come into early recovery and they replace it with other manic stuff. Like it's one thing replacing it with college and work. Some people replace it with spending, sex, you know, internet, you know. So it's just something to be wary of, you know, for people that's in early recovery. You know, it's grand being busy just once it doesn't become an obsession and it becomes counterproductive.
Yeah.
You know, but so you done the restoration course and you finish off your apprenticeship.
And I went to Carlow to finish my apprenticeship in the summer of 2015, and after there I got that. I spent 10 weeks up there, I got that, and I was weak. I was so proud of myself, you know, because there was a 20-year gap from the day I started my apprenticeship when I was 15. Now, that was, as we spoke about last week, there were chaotic times, and my apprenticeship had to be cancelled because of going into homes and the treatment centres at the time, and so it was a massive achievement, and I felt like I was really, really moving forward in my life, you know. In between all this, I had a lot of stuff going on, emotional stuff and family stuff that I was trying to understand and trying to be responsible, you know. So I suppose by just keeping myself busy, I was just maybe running away from responsibility a little, James, you know. I think I may have been, I know I was, you know, because it was very, very hard for me to deal with, you know, because I really didn't know how to be a father, didn't know how to be a partner, you know. I really, really didn't understand what I was doing.
It sounds like the keeping yourself so busy, you're biding yourself some time till you figure it out. You know, that's like, and you're not running from it because you're still in the home and you're still sober, you're still working and you're still educating yourself and you're being a positive role model to your family, but you're not quite sure of where you fit as a father or all these things. So it's not that you're running from it, I don't think. I think you're busy, you're biding yourself time, you're always thinking about it, you're doing work on yourself as well. When you're doing work on yourself, what kind of supports, other than the Cork Lines, kind of recovery supports? We're going to meetings and stuff like that, or?
I was going to AA, from the moment I got out of prison, I started going to meetings, maybe 3 to 4 meetings a week. You know, I got myself a sponsor, and I went over the big book with my sponsor, and I just listened. I got myself a good person to be my sponsor as well.
Yeah.
You know, I had a sponsor in prison as well. I spoke about that man last week, and he was very, very, very good to me. And one thing about me, I was so serious about getting well. I listened. I always listened. I always done what I was told to do. You know, whether my head told me the opposite, I always listened. And because I looked up to these people, because they had something I wanted. You know, they had a car, they had a family home, which was a nice environment. It was a friendly ambience within the household, and not that it wasn't my own home at the time, you know, but I wasn't well in my head still at the time. I was still really, really struggling to adapt to everything that was going on in my life.
Yeah.
You know,
So you're just searching for that peace of mind still.
Yeah. Now, during this time, I was seeing a counsellor as well. The Cork Alliance had gotten a counsellor for me, and I was seeing this person on a weekly basis as well, which was good for me at the time, you know.
Yeah.
And
so you're doing everything in your power to make sure you don't relapse.
Yeah.
You're going to your key workup with the Cork Alliance, you're going to your counsellor, you're going to your meetings, you're doing college courses, you're doing your apprenticeship, and you're being a family man. Life sounds really busy.
Yeah, it was, and it's actually still. I don't think much has changed really. It was really, really busy. I think I needed to be busy as well, James, because if I'd had to stop and sit with myself for a short amount of time back then, I probably would have gave myself too much time to think.
Yeah.
You know, while I was in prison, I would have meditated a lot. You know, and meditation really. It didn't slow my mind down. What meditation done for me was I was able to sit back and watch what was going on in my mind. You know, I became more aware of what I didn't want to be thinking of anymore. You know, I had a lot of negative thought patterns, you know, a lot of negative core beliefs that stemmed from early childhood. Things like I was not good enough, that I was bad, you know, that I was probably stupid. And, you know, these are things now that are going on for me in my adult life, and I'm starting to prove all these things wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I'm starting to prove all these programs that are ingrained into me wrong. You know, and that took some work.
Yeah.
You know, particularly around the education side, I always believed that I was stupid. You know, I was stupid, and for a while in first and second year. This is when I left St. John's. I done the level 6 course there as well.
What was that in?
That was another course called Sustainable Technologies. It was a kind of an architecture-based course, construction.
Yeah.
And when I left there after doing the level 6, I went down to the CIT, and I started off doing a 3-year course which is called Craftwood Technology with Business. And it was practical based, carpentry, and there was a lot of business involved, accounting and marketing and this as well. And after 2 years, I decided to cross over into a different course again, which was construction management. But during this period, at the beginning, the first year in particular, I would always criticize myself that I wasn't good enough. You're not going to do this. What are you doing? You're fooling yourself, you know. But I kept slogging away, kept working away. That's one thing that I have is a good work ethic. I have, you know.
Do you know, you have a great work ethic, but you know, you're talking there about negative core beliefs that would have drove you using before. But do you think that the meditation makes you aware of this? And do you think that meditation was a good coping skill for you to manage these core beliefs? Like you still have this part of your brain that's telling you negative things. A critical side of your brain, but because you're meditating, you're aware of it and you're able to deal with it more effectively. Whereas when you're not aware of it, you're acting on it all the time. So do you think that meditation is good, one, for awareness, and two, for a coping skill to deal with kind of a negative mindset?
With meditation, for me, at the beginning, when I started in prison. I couldn't do very much at the beginning. I'd probably do a few minutes at a time, and the periods of meditation started getting longer, and there was a lot of thought going on in my mind, a lot of negativity, and the periods started getting longer that I was able to sit myself, and I just kept constantly bringing myself back to my breath. And what I was doing there, James, was strengthening my awareness, unbeknown to myself.
Yeah.
My awareness was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, I knew nothing about core beliefs back then. I knew nothing about how to change core beliefs. All I was doing was just strengthening my awareness, And from there, I started to investigate the connection from thoughts and emotions, how they're both connected, how you think of a thought, guilty thought, shameful thought, a fearful thought, and how the body reacts to that then, with the feeling of fear or shame or guilt. And when that started, when I started getting involved and reading up on all this stuff, that's when my life changed. That's when everything changed. The psychotherapy and the counselling and all these things were very, very, very helpful for me. They taught me a lot, and I met some fantastic people. But the key to my recovery, James, everybody's different. I've said this to you already a few times.
Yeah.
The key to my recovery and the key to me getting well with my own mental health was meditation and understanding the connection between the mind and the emotions and being able to sit back and just watch these thoughts taking action and the emotions to follow, and then another thought to kind of give strength to the emotion. Say, for instance, if I had a shameful thought or a guilty thought, I'd feel shame or guilt. But when you feel shame or guilt, your mind will start bringing up more shameful or guilty thoughts just to strengthen that feeling. It's like a snowball effect. And when I started understanding all this, my life changed. I was catching all these core beliefs as you spoke about. They were coming up. I was catching them. I was feeling the emotions of them. The thoughts were there. And earlier on, when I knew nothing about these things could last a day, 2 days, 2 weeks. Where I'm in a bad place, constantly thinking, ruminating of these thoughts. But when I was after gaining these tools, which I still use today, which are very, very important to me, my life changed. My life changed. I came across this guy on YouTube. His name was Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I just kept listening and listening to his. I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and he had these online lectures, and I bought a package off him, And in these lectures, he teaches you about what I just spoke about, the connection to mind and body, and he teaches you how to change them and how to change your life, and how we're all energy and we're made of more energy than matter. And it took me a long time to understand this stuff now, because I was in survival mode. I was in survival. I wasn't out of prison long, and I was, and I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I'd go down into the kitchen, and I'd turn on the laptop, and I'd do a lecture for an hour and a half, and then I'd start meditating for another hour, and my life changed. That's over 2 years ago now.
That's when you started getting the peace of mind and the contentment.
Yeah. I started to stop running away from all the negative emotions that they were never negative emotions. They were just emotions that were just never felt. So when I started to feel all these different things, no matter how strong they were or how much of a hold, there were times, James, that I felt I was going backwards because stuff that I thought I was after getting over was coming back up. Excuse me. and I felt I was going backwards. So when I just felt all these things and left them come, they will always just go, and
Yeah.
my life changed.
Yeah.
I went to Brighton then for a week-long retreat,
Yeah.
which is a meditative retreat again.
Yeah.
I spent 7 days over there, and things changed.
Yeah. And I should say as well, we've no connection to AA or the Cork Alliance. We don't get anything from Joe Dispenza.
No.
These are just the things that work for you.
This is just my story.
Exactly.
Nothing else,
We're not sponsoring anybody.
No.
This is just the services you used and the skills that you learned along the way and the services and everything. So it's fantastic. Not that you found your peace of mind and contentment. Then you're doing your level 7 construction management.
Yeah.
You're in a better headspace doing this.
Yeah, I was in a better headspace, and I had some fantastic lecturers out the CIT.
What's it like being on a big campus? Did you have like impostor syndrome?
Yes, I did. I always felt like I didn't deserve it. I wasn't good enough.
Was there many mature students in your class?
No, I was the only one.
Yeah.
And there was a gap of maybe 16, 17 years, possibly more. And these kids, they're all grown men and women now. They were all together for 2 years before I popped into their class at this stage, So I was the new guy, not as well as the mature student. But they were nice, they were good. It took a bit of time now for me to get used to them and them to get used to me.
Yeah, I've seen some of your assignments, and I don't have dyslexia, but when I look at some of your assignments, I'm looking at numbers, geometrical shapes. I feel dyslexic looking at your work. How do you do your work with dyslexia?
Well, as you just brought it up, dyslexia, James, it wasn't until my second year of college out of the CIT I brought the attention to the DSS, which is the Disability Service in CIT. I brought it up that I felt that I was missing something. I just felt like I wasn't able in some way, because I never liked reading. Sometimes I just read from the bottom up. Some words I could just never understand or spell. And I spoke to somebody in their office, and they gave me funding to see an educational psychologist, and I got an appointment with this lady, and it turned out that I had dyslexia, something that I never knew what dyslexia was until then. I knew it was a word and it was a disability, but I didn't know what it was all about. And when I found out I was dyslexic, it just helped me that little bit, to know that like I wasn't stupid.
Yeah.
I just have dyslexia and I'm a little bit behind.
Just another aspect of Timmy.
That's all.
You just have to work a little bit harder than your classmates.
And I did. I worked hard, and that's just like going back to my work ethic. For the whole of my first 3 years in the CIT, I came out with a 1-1, which was my average. In the first year, I was 85 because I was so good with the practical, making roofs and stuff like that. Second year, my average would have been 80. Third year, I got my 1-1, which is average of 70 odd again.
Yeah.
But the fourth year, it was a step up,
Yeah.
It was a real step up. And
so you have your ordinary degree after 3 years, CIT, but you're going for the honours, level 8. You have a dissertation, you have big pieces of work to do there.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? There's a lot of, like you're doing a bit of work on the side as well, and you're doing other things. How do you manage the level 8?
The level 8 was tough, James. It was really, really tough. We had 2 major projects in fourth year. One was a project called PED, a module called PED, which is Project Evaluation and Development. So what you do is you have to pick a site, go through the procurement of the site, the financial side of it, the design and all these other areas, and you have to go through every process until it's finished and it's handed over to the client, and that was tough for me.
Yeah.
You know, because I wouldn't be the most organised person in the world.
Yeah.
You know, but I just worked hard. I worked really, really, really hard, and I also had my dissertation as well going on at the same time. And the topic I chose for my dissertation was how mental health affects productivity in subcontractors' organisations, are basically how if they were the fault of poor productivity through their
So,
mental health.
in a nutshell, mental health amongst construction workers. That was
Yes.
kind of the topic in a simplified form.
Yeah. I really learned a lot about how much mental health has to play in the construction industry, how much damage is within it. You know?
And you know, the construction industry, obviously, it's a very masculine industry. Mental health may not be the top of the agenda, or maybe men don't talk about it on the scaffold or whatever. And what did you find in your dissertation? Where did it bring you?
I found that men in construction are more prominent when it comes to suicide and mental health issues.
Okay.
And that made me think then about my own experience in the construction industry, why I like to be constantly moving, kept going practically, you know, with my hands. And that just confirms why so many people in construction have mental health problems.
Yeah.
Because they can't sit with themselves in an office. You know, they just need the mind constantly going. You know, because I'm speaking about myself here. You know, before prison or anything else. You know, I couldn't sit still.
Yeah.
If I had to sit down now with you, try to drink a cup of tea or anything like that, my two legs would be hopping off the floor.
Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't be in conversation with you because I had no awareness. You know, I wanted to be constantly moving and moving and moving.
Yeah.
You know,
and this is common in the construction industry.
It would be,
yeah.
It would be, you know. But that dissertation really helped me to understand mental health a little bit more, you know.
Yeah.
Because of the mental health situations in my own family, my mother, with my own mental health issues.
Yeah.
You know, and I found it really, really informative.
Excellent.
You know.
And you finished your degree in the last few weeks?
I finished my degree on the 23rd of May. And it was
big relief.
It was overwhelming to finish something. I really never finished anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, this was something that, you know, it's just fantastic, James.
And from the level you started in prison. What did you do in prison again?
I done the equivalent of the junior cert.
So you're gone from a level 3 to a level 8.
Yeah.
So it's taken about 7 years.
Yeah.
And you finished it in May.
Yeah.
Fantastic, congratulations.
Thank you.
What's the future hold for you now?
I'm in the process of starting up my own company at the moment.
Okay.
It's a maintenance and construction company, primarily maintenance, you know. And I'm hoping that I can help people like myself. You know, this is a very, very important point here when I'm speaking what I am about this. Is when I was in my last year in the CIT, there was a lot of talk about interviews, you know, and stuff like that, about getting jobs with big companies and all that. And any time there was talk of that, I just used to feel this bit of fear, you know, and shame in my gut. And I know what it was, you know, because it was the thoughts of going into a big company like your Sisks or BAMs or Hagerty's or any company, it doesn't matter. Could be a small contractor, doesn't matter. And for them then to find out my background and for me to be judged on my background and not getting a job or being judged on my background, and I'm a completely different person to the way I was back then.
So this is an important point. So you've come through a very tough background, through prison and all. Obviously you picked up some convictions. They're 10 years old now at this stage. You're a qualified carpenter, and you've got a bachelor's degree in construction management, among other certificates and qualifications, but you didn't feel confident enough to go looking for jobs because of the convictions holding you back. So that motivates you to start your own business.
Motivates me to start my own business and to take people like me that are on the same road as me with me
Yeah,
into the construction industry or the maintenance industry, and not feel like that they're on their own inside in these companies, you know.
yeah,
Because it's grand saying it's grand in construction, because a lot of people in construction have, particularly from areas like up around here, have been to prison,
yeah,
you know, and but a lot of the bigger companies, when you're talking about professionals, you're talking about architects and
yeah,
QSs and construction managers and things like that. A lot of them
yeah,
wouldn't really know too much about
yeah.
this lifestyle, you know.
Like
And
we get a lot of tradespeople up here,
yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with a tradesperson. Believe
no,
me,
not at all.
there's a tradesperson will earn far more money than I'll ever earn.
I'm a tradesperson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at the management side of
Yeah.
construction, they tend to be on the other side of the city, and you feel that they mightn't have much sympathy for you if you were going before them in an
No,
interview.
don't get me wrong, James.
It's just an insecurity you have.
Yeah, it is. These people are like, I've met some fabulous people there as well, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But that possibly was one of my own insecurities as well.
Yeah,
Going into a company, I just didn't want to feel like that anymore. I
yeah,
didn't want to feel like that I didn't deserve something,
yeah,
because I do. I do deserve to have a good job, and
yeah.
because I've worked hard, and you know,
Of course.
I've paid for a lot of the damage I've done and the people, you know, and
You've taken ownership of your past.
I have, you know, and like there's some things that I've done to people or whatever, or some of the times I've probably done shit to people I probably can't even remember, you know.
Yeah,
And I suppose this is as good as opportunity for as ever to kind of just leave these people know, like, if I ever did do anything to anybody,
yeah,
and they have my sincere apologies, you
yeah,
know. But who I am now is a completely different person, you know. All I want to do now is provide for my family, and be a role model for my kids, you know,
yeah,
be there for my wife, and
yeah,
just have a good life, because
yeah,
I really, really just enjoy life for what
yeah,
it is. I like walking,
yeah,
I like hiking, you know.
yeah. And you're a picture of health. You're a picture of
Thank you.
contentment. You're a great advertisement for recovery. Believe me when I say that, yeah. And I've always looked up to you,
Thank you.
even in the mad days, but especially in recovery. It was always like you were kind of trailblazing, doing the college thing. I was kind of following on, and it's been great talking to you. What's the name of your business?
The company is called Revive Me Maintenance and Construction. So
Okay.
I picked the name Revive Me because it kind of shows me as well. I'm revived as a
Yeah,
person, but maintenance as well is when you want to revive something, bring something back to life.
yeah,
To in a domestic sense, if you wanted to get your house power washed, or
yeah,
your roof power washed, or your gutters cleaned, or
yeah.
you know.
So you want to breathe new life into objects,
Yeah.
the same way somebody breathed new life into you,
Yeah.
and you want to bring people along with you.
And
There's
that,
this, you're a
yes.
social entrepreneur,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
if anybody has any advice, guidance, or would like to help out,
I'd really appreciate it.
yeah, get
You
in
know.
touch with us. You know, all the links are in the description.
Yeah.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Anybody in the construction industry that have maybe that has an interest in maybe a social enterprise type of construction model. You'd love to hear from them.
Definitely, because I'm just starting this from
Scratch.
scratch. You know, I'm getting onto a few different agencies in Cork City, Cork City Partnership, just to see what help I can get, or some guidance. You know, just to get this going, because I really, really feel that people like me in this city, you know, need something like this in place, just to help them out, because I felt like for a while that it was going to be very, very, very difficult for me to be integrated back into society and even to get a job. Even as I was working for different companies in the last few years, you know, part-time or whatever, I always I was always fearful that people would find out about my past and I'd be judged on it.
Yeah.
And there was an awful lot of anxiety around that, James, and
So, do you know this process now where you're kind of laying it out on the table?
yeah,
Do you find this liberating in some way?
I do, yeah.
There's no more hiding. There's no more. This person might find out this, and that, the other. You've accepted it. You've made peace with it, and you're ready to move on.
When you move from one life to the other, when I was living in the old life, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, because that's just how it was. But when you move away from that and you're trying to live an honest life, a respectful life, and do right by people and myself, it's different.
Yeah.
Because there's that rejection, that fear of rejection from people, you know, and it's an awful feeling, James, you know.
Yeah. But onwards and upwards from here
that's
on.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. So thanks a million.
Thank you, James.
It's great speaking to you. Thanks everybody watching. As I said yesterday, if nobody watched it, we do it anyway because this is what we want to do. But there's been a great response so far. Keep liking, keep subscribing, keep sharing. Let's make the podcast grow. We see this as a community podcast, a form of digital community work where we can give back to our communities and help each other out. We're so happy that you're supporting us. So much good feedback. I'm sure you'll accept that Timmy is very brave to come on and give his story. Unfortunately, I have to do it next time round, so I can't expect that everybody's seen the Tommy Tierney show. So yeah, I'm going to be in the hot seat next week.
Yeah.
Timmy's going to interview me, and then we're going to have some guests following on from that. So see y'all next week, lads. Take care.
Thank you.